What's going on, guys? One of the questions I get a lot is, what lens did you use? What camera do you use? So today I figured we'd take a look at what's inside my camera bag. All right, let's start with the bag itself. So this is the Think Tank Airport Security version 2.0. Had this bag, I don't know, like 8 or 10 years, something like that. This thing has been phenomenal. The only thing wrong with it is there's a little bit of fraying right here from so much use, and the wheels on the bottom here, they're a little bit pitted, but they still roll. So literally, I'm gonna rock this until the wheels fall off. And it has replaceable wheels. So at that point, I just put some new ones on. So let's start off with the cameras. Sony A9, I have 2 of them. I got both of them used. I use them at weddings, corporate events. Typically, I like to have one on each shoulder on a wedding day. It's one of the best cameras out there, especially for autofocus. It's super fast. You can't go wrong with a couple of these. Now, recording this video, I have a Sony A7 III. I use that for portraits. I use it for, any type of work where, I want optimal sharpness. To me, the A7 III is a little bit sharper than the A9 when it comes to when you're pixel peeping. When you're one of those people that like to zoom in and do one of those photos on Instagram where it's like the eyes side by side for whatever reason. Just like if we didn't believe you that you could get a shot in focus with eye autofocus. So for Speedlights, I got the Godox V1, the Sony version. It's got a lithium ion battery in here, which is great because I don't have to charge up AA's for it like I used to with my other flashes. I got the accessory kit to go on here, but the only thing that I really use is this bounce card. And then occasionally I'll use the gels in case I'm under some tungsten lighting, just to make the flash a little bit warmer so I can match the ambient going on. I'm big on having backups, so I got this little guy. It's a Godox TT600. I've never used it. I think I've used it once just to make sure that, it was up to snuff, but I would only use it if something ever happened to this V1S. It's only a backup. Takes AA's, and so I do have to bring AA's for this, but that's about the only thing. Speaking of batteries, I've got these PowerX AA's. They're rechargeable. It's a responsible thing to do if you're gonna be shooting weddings every weekend or whatever. It's good for the environment and it'll save you money long-term, and you won't have to worry about rushing out to CVS or something before your wedding to go grab some AA's. One of the things I love is my Passport ColorChecker. I use it on every job. It makes post-processing so much easier, especially if you got a camera brand that's not known for their color science, not saying any names, but it just helps with consistency. It makes it real easy to have my photos and my second shooter's photos match up after the fact. Now let's talk about a few things you may not find in everybody's bag. I use these Clean and Clear oil absorbing sheets. One of the makeup artists that I used to work with used to swear by these things. I use them at engagement sessions or something because sometimes, especially here in South Florida, the weather's hot outside, people start to sweat a little bit, they start to look a little oily, a little shiny. You just basically dab, dab, dab in the areas that are a little bit too shiny, and it won't remove the makeup, but it will absorb the sweat and the oil or whatever. The last thing you want to do on a shoot is have somebody take a towel or a napkin and try to dry themselves off, but then it just messes up their makeup. Earplugs, I keep some of these in my bag because a lot of times I end up having to walk right in front of the DJ speakers to get that shot that I want to get at a wedding reception or a corporate event. Especially at bar mitzvahs, it's just way too loud in there. You got all the screaming kids. You gotta have some of these unless you want to go deaf. A lint roller, I keep one of these in my bag just as a backup for whenever I'm doing headshots. Also for when I'm doing weddings, it's nice to have this to clean off the groom's tuxedo. Lens wipes, I keep a bunch of these in my bag. Self-explanatory, sometimes you gotta clean a lens at a wedding. We did a couple of champagne shots where the bride popped a bottle and champagne went everywhere and some of it got on my camera. Well, I don't want to take my shirt and clean off the camera, so I have a couple of these in my bag. Pepto-Bismol. Yeah, I keep a little bit of this inside my bag just in case. An emergency sewing kit. This is really good to have. It's got a bunch of things in here. It's got some needles, thread, scissors, a thimble. You know, so often there's been many circumstances involving weddings where maybe the groom's tuxedo had some buttons that fell off. Maybe the bride, there was something that was just a little bit off about her dress, and everybody panics and they gotta run down to the front desk to ask if they've got needle and thread or something like that. Whereas you can pull this out and you'll be a hero. People will love you. I've got this little rocket blower, basically to clean off my sensor. With mirrorless, it's really easy to get the sensor dirty, and sometimes you have just that really big blob on there. I always clean my sensors with this before shoot, but sometimes when you're swapping lenses, there may be a little bit of dirt that gets on there, and it's a lot easier to take this and just clean it off at the event versus trying to, you know, take that one dust spot out of every picture in post. This is just a cheap little bounce card. I bought it to go along with this flash. It's white on one side, it's silver on the other. It just fits on like that. It's nice because it's a little bit larger of a bounce, and the silver gives it a little bit more pop. This is dental wax. If you take a look here, this is for people with braces, but basically at weddings to do those ring shots where one ring is balancing on the other or whatever, I'll use a little bit of this. It's like silly putty, just put a little bit down, put the ring on top of it. You can get those cool ring shots. In addition to the dental wax, I've also got basically some mirror paper. It's cardboard on one side and a mirror on the other. Right now, this has like a little plastic sheen on it that I can tear off, and it's a lot shinier. It just makes my life a little bit easier on those days where I'm in for a time crunch. I've got my little L bracket and video light. Check my other video out in terms of how to make your camera autofocus better, but again, it's in my bag. Put my camera here, have my video light on the side. It helps me focus so much easier at receptions. I've got my radio triggers. You know, I like to use flash a lot, so I've got a couple of triggers. These are the ones for my interfit lights. I carry a couple of these just as a backup. This is the trigger for my Chrome ELB 1200. And I've also got a couple of pocket wizards. These you can pick up so cheap. They're basically just universal triggers. Like you can put these on any camera brand, which is great because if I'm shooting Sony, but I have a second shooter to shoot Nikon or something, I can just pass them a couple of these and not worry about it. And then I also got some cheap little carabiners. So basically, really fast, I can take this and loop it around the handle that's on my light. That way, when I'm at a wedding reception, I can trigger these lights and my second shooter can trigger the lights as well. Now let's talk about the reason why you clicked on this video, the lenses. Recording this video, I've got the 14-24 from Sigma. It's a 2.8. I did a video on that. It's a good wide angle lens. It's sharp. I've been using it this whole time recording this video. So you tell me what you think about it. But for the money, you can't really beat it. So I've got the 24-70 G Master. For me, this was a must-have lens. I feel like every bag should either have a 24-70 or 24-10 something, or 105, 120, whatever. This is probably one of my most used lenses. You know, whenever you're doing events, there's times where you just can't get to a spot in time to get the shot that you want to have. So to be able to zoom is just so much easier. For me, photography is the art of exclusion, and sometimes you need to zoom in to be able to get rid of all the champagne glasses that are next to the bridesmaids in the getting ready room, or whatever distractions there are around the room. So 24-70, you can't go wrong with this. This is the Zeiss Batis 40mm CF f2. Basically what it is it's a 40mm lens, but the CF stands for close focus. So it's not a true macro, but it can get in really close. I bought this basically for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's a backup focal length for my 24-70. God forbid I'm at an event and something happens to that lens. I've got a 40mm, which, you know, is kind of right in the middle of that range. Also, with the close focusing at weddings, I use this to do my ring shots. Overall, I like it. I mean, it's a good lens, it's sharp. This could replace you having a 35 and a 50. In addition to this 40mm, I also have the Batis 85mm, the 1.8. I use this lens specifically for headshots. I also do beauty work with it. It's a backup for, you know, any telephoto work that I need to have. It's a good lens. Is it the best 85 that I've ever shot with? No. If there was another 85 out there that was just super duper amazing, I would maybe sell this for that. But it is also nice having like two really small lenses, so in case I want to do some video work with it, these balance really nicely with the mirrorless. And now for the star of the show, the Sony 135 G Master. This is my favorite lens that I own. I just like it, man. Typically when I'm at weddings, I like to have two camera bodies. I like to have the 24-70 on one camera and this 135 on the other, and I'm good. One thing that I do not like about it at all though is this, this aperture ring right here. I put a little bit of painter's tape on here because I was accidentally turning the aperture ring sometimes. So when you accidentally bump this ring, you go from an aperture of 1.8 to f22, the screen goes completely black, and you're like, for a second or two, you're like, what's going on? Like you're freaking out because the client or the model's standing over there and your screen is pitch black, and then you realize, oh, I bumped this zoom ring and that's why I can't see anything. Now, God forbid anything would ever happen to this lens, but let's just say something did. Please, Father, don't let anything happen to this lens. But if it did, I've got this lens as a backup. It's the 70-200 f4. And I know a lot of you are like, oh, why didn't you get the 2.8? Well, I'm not made of money. And this is a backup lens and I rarely use it. It's just an okay lens in my opinion. There's nothing good about it. There's nothing bad about it. It's okay. It's a 70-200. But typically I'll use this at corporate events. That's the only time I really put it on the camera. You know, when I'm photographing a speaker, and with the 135, the perfect shot that I want to get, it might put me in the middle of a table or something like that if I could stand where I wanted to. So with this, I can zoom in, zoom out. F4 is enough under some low light conditions. Would I like to have the 2.8? Sure, but for that price point, no way. And that's pretty much everything that's in my bag. I really appreciate you guys watching and taking the time out of your day to support this channel. We've gotten over 1,000 subscribers and I'm really happy about that. It went by super quick. It was a lot quicker than I thought it would take. You keep on watching, I'll keep on putting them out. So I really appreciate it. Thank you. See you at the next one. Take care.